G'day guys, welcome back to Cookie's Fishroom. Thanks again for joining me and Optimus on the couch. Today we'll be talking about nasties that we often find in our tanks, and it's really a common thing when we have worms and all different sorts of things wrong with our fish in their guts, and some not in the guts, in the actual tank itself. So we'll be talking about how to get rid of those types of things, parasites and worms basically, and the best medication to use for those. So this video won't be an instructional video on how much to use of the medication, but this video is more to talk about which medication to use for what we're treating inside the tank. So let's get going. So today, parasites and worms. There are different sort of medications and for each type, and I use different types for different sorts of worms and parasites because they are more effective against those different varieties of these nasties. For instance, Calamanus worms. I hope I said that right because I nearly said calamari. Calamanus worms. The best thing I found to use is fenbendazole. Okay, and the reason being for that is not only does it kill the actual worm, but it doesn't just paralyze it like levamisole does. So levamisole will paralyze these worms, your fish will poop them out, and then the life cycle of fish sees worm, fish eats worm, Calamanus worms out of fish's butt. Now, that's natural for a fish to do that, so don't be alarmed, but if you're using levamisole, the worms is just paralyzed momentarily. It still is alive, and you will have issues of things like eggs, and the life cycle of it just keeps going around in circles. You'll never end up getting rid of it at all. So, with a lot of testing over the last few weeks, fenbendazole seems to get rid of the issue much better. You don't have to deal with it ever again. Levamisole, if you can't get it, levamisole is a great replacement for it, but you do have to vacuum your substrate a day later. Just give it 24 hours and clean up that substrate straight away. If you're using levamisole, and even if you're using any sort of wormer, the best thing to do is be treating this condition inside a hospital tank so you can see what the fish is dropping on the bare bottom of it. You don't have substrate in a hospital tank, so keep that in mind. You can use a turkey baster to get rid of anything in there. You can have a look at it closely if you're into science under a microscope. It's a good way of making sure that you see what comes out of the fish. So if you don't know what Calamanus worms are, they're those little red, they're tiny red worms that stick out of the fish's anus. It's kind of disgusting looking, but you do see it from time to time. It's very hard to spot, especially against red colored fish or orange. You will see it easily against whites, yellows, and grays, silvers. So that's one thing to keep in mind for when treating Calamanus worms. Other than that, I prefer to use levamisole for all sorts of parasites and worms, and that's why it's inside my quarantine process. And that's why I prefer levamisole over fenbendazole for quarantine, also because you're doing quarantine inside a bare bottom tank. So even if it is, if you have Calamanus worms, you will see it fall down to the bottom. It gives you a chance to get rid of it at the same time. So a lot of other worm treatments, parasite treatments, do have copper inside of them, and that is harmful to some of our invertebrates in the tank. A lot of us have, shrimp, and a lot of us have snails. You don't want to you try to avoid that as much as possible. Levamisole is widely available on the internet, same as fenbendazole. Levamisole itself comes in a lot of products to do with farming animals, poultry, goats, sheep, cattle. And it's a matter of finding the correct dosage for the correct version that you do have. I do understand that Fritz has a product with levamisole in it, so that will come with dosing instructions for fish specifically. So that's a great one to use if you can't get your hands on any sort of levamisole, especially if you're in Canada or in the UK or any other country that restricts medication and has a tight grip on it. So other type of medications I have tried and used is a thing called Parasite by Blue Planet. I've also had great success against that, against tapeworms with that. I do recommend it if you're in a country that does get Blue Planet products. You can also, if you live in the US, buy them on eBay from Australia and other countries. Levamisole is great when it comes to tapeworms also, if you can't get your hands on some of that. So in summary, if you can get both of them, levamisole and fenbendazole, you are covering a huge range of parasites and a huge range of worms. You won't have any issues, hopefully, with killing calamanus worms, tapeworms, any sort of nasties that you might find in the bellies of your little friends and might be causing them things like dropsy or swim bladder issues, or even a weight loss issue, appetite issue. Thanks again for joining us on the couch. I hope you are all well, my friends. Take care of yourselves, and bye for now.